Swiss tourist caught in tragedy. Young woman killed and man critically injured in devastating shark attack at Crowdy Bay. A tragic shark attack at a popular coastal holiday spot has claimed the life of a woman in her 20s and left a man of the same age seriously injured. The incident occurred early Thursday morning at Kylies Beach in Crowdy Bay National Park, south of Port Macquarie. Now let's explore the deeper layers of this story here on the AI podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is to take a look at a really specific and harrowing incident report.
It's a tough one.
It is. It's a shark attack at Crowdy Bay in New South Wales. And we're going to try and look beyond the tragedy itself to pull out the critical knowledge.
Exactly.
We want to focus on three things: the immediate human response, geography of risk, and, the science of monitoring.
The limitations of it, really.
Right. So the core event, it happened early one morning at a place called Kylies Beach. And it's just this incredibly dramatic, painful contrast.
A tragedy, but also heroism.
Yeah, exactly. You have this deep personal tragedy involving two Swiss nationals, both in their 20s, and then woven right into that, you have this breathtaking moment of heroism.
So the young woman, she was tragically killed.
She was. She died on the sand, even though bystanders tried desperately to help. The man, he survived, but he was critically injured. It's a snapshot of a nightmare, really.
It is. And when we analyze events like this, the goal isn't just to list the facts. It's about understanding the tipping points. What turns a dangerous encounter into a fatal one. And conversely, what specific, sometimes really unexpected actions can buy you that precious time you need to survive.
A case study, then.
It is. A case study in trauma response and, I think, geographical vulnerability.
Okay, let's unpack the heroism first, because it's an incredible part of this story. The man's survival really begins with this just extraordinary act of selflessness.
Right.
The reports say he was attacked while trying to save the woman he was with.
I mean, just think about that for a second. That instinct.
It's remarkable.
It really is.
Yeah.
To put yourself directly in harm's way like that. It speaks volumes about, human nature under the most extreme pressure imaginable.
And while that initial courage couldn't change the ultimate outcome for the woman,
It set the stage. It set the stage for this second act of heroism, which is what we really need to focus on. The critical first aid intervention that happened right after.
while the emergency responders are scrambling to get to this incredibly remote beach.
Exactly. The man is on the sand fighting for his life. He has a very, very severe wound to his upper right thigh. And this, right here, is where we find a profound lesson in first aid.
A lesson for everyone.
A lesson for everyone, everywhere. It's that crucial nugget of knowledge.
So tell us about that. What was it?
It all comes down to controlling what's called a catastrophic hemorrhage. When you're bleeding from a major artery, especially in a limb like the thigh, you have a tiny window of time.
We're talking minutes.
Minutes, if that, before it becomes irreversible. Trauma care calls it the golden hour, but really, the first few minutes are what matter. The goal is to stop that bleeding instantly.
And in this case,
In this case, a bystander saw what was happening, saw how severe the bleed was, and used some incredibly quick thinking. They applied a makeshift tourniquet.
and that's the key, isn't it? Makeshift. This wasn't specialized equipment. It wasn't a paramedic.
No, it was just ingenuity and common sense in the worst moment of someone's life that saved a life.
And the officials, the professionals, they backed this up, right?
Oh, absolutely. The NSW ambulance superintendent, a man named Joshua Smith, was directly involved in the response. He commended this specific action.
What did it say?
He stated, and I'm quoting him here, that this improvised tourniquet potentially saved his life.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, think about the resources that were coming. 5 land-based paramedic teams, a critical care paramedic, a doctor, a helicopter, all this incredible high-tech intervention.
All of it.
And all of it would have been completely useless if that one bystander hadn't stopped the bleeding on the sand first.
So the lesson for you listening is just so clear. In a crisis, the best piece of equipment is immediate, effective action.
That is.
Knowing how to apply pressure, how to improvise a tourniquet, that buys time. It buys time for the system to catch up to you.
That's the perfect way to put it. The bystander bridged the gap between the trauma and the professional help.
Yeah.
But that gap was particularly wide in this case.
Which brings us right to the second part of this deep dive.
The geography of risk. His life was saved by immediate help. But that help was only a bridge to the high-tech teams that eventually arrived. And that arrival was delayed purely because of the location.
Right. Kylies Beach, It sounds idyllic, but every report immediately flags it as a high-risk zone.
Picturesque, but dangerous.
Exactly. It's extremely remote, it's unpatrolled, and it's difficult to access. This isn't Bondi Beach with lifeguards every 50 feet.
Not at all. And when we look at coastal safety, you have to realize that beauty often comes with a trade-off.
A trade-off in safety.
It's safety infrastructure,
Yeah.
The official body for this is Surf Life Saving NSW, or SLS NSW. Their chief executive, Stephen Pierce, he confirmed it. The location's remoteness made any kind of immediate lifeguard intervention impossible.
And this is where the vulnerability of visitors, like this young Swiss couple, it just becomes so acute.
Yes.
A local surfer, a resident, they might inherently understand the risks of an unpatrolled beach in a national park, but
Yeah.
how do you get that danger across effectively to a tourist, someone on holiday?
That is the core challenge. I mean, from a communications standpoint, the warnings are technically there
You mean on a sign or something?
on a website.
No?
The Kylies Beach campground website, it explicitly warns that the beaches in Crowdy Bay National Park are not patrolled. It even mentions strong rip currents.
But who reads the fine print on a campground website when you're looking for a beautiful, secluded spot?
Exactly. If you're a tourist, you're seeking solitude, you might just overlook that warning, especially if you associate the ocean with leisure, not with, inherent danger.
So when you choose a remote spot,
You're essentially making a policy decision for yourself. You are trading immediate help, real-time warnings, and safety personnel for isolation, for tranquility.
and it's not a choice everyone realizes they're making.
No, and the reports mentioned something else tragic. Mr. Pierce from SLS NSW noted that because this area is so remote, they've already had several serious incidents this year alone.
So it's not just about sharks.
Not at all. It's rip currents, it's injuries,
Yeah.
it's the guaranteed delay of any emergency service for any reason.
Yeah.
That delay is built right into the geography.
A powerful point. Okay, so let's pivot from the geography to the official response, how they try to manage this risk, or at least understand it after the fact.
Right.
This takes us into the investigation and what it tells us about the blind spots in our monitoring science.
The technology gap.
So, after the attack, authorities closed Kylies Beach and the surrounding areas. Standard procedure.
Yes, and they call in the experts. The Department of Primary Industries, or DPI. Their job is to investigate these incidents.
And how do they do that?
Well, they're using drones to survey the area from the air, and they might deploy what are called drum lines.
Which are?
Basically, they're large baited hooks. The idea is to try and capture the specific shark involved so they can identify the species, do forensic analysis.
Kind of old school.
It is, and that's what's so fascinating here because it brings up this point about infrastructure.
Yeah.
NSW is actually considered a world leader in this stuff.
In shark monitoring.
Yeah, they have a really extensive program. They tag sharks using these sophisticated receiver buoys. The sources say the system is active at 37 popular beaches.
37 beaches, that sounds pretty robust.
It is, but here's the critical gap. Kylies Beach, where the attack happened, does not have a receiver installed.
Ah.
The nearest operational buoy is about 30 kilometers south at a place called Old Bar.
30 kilometers. So it's basically a black hole for data.
You can think of the buoys like cell phone towers. They give you amazing coverage and real-time alerts if a tagged shark swims by. But if you wander 30 kilometers outside that network, your signal drops to zero.
So Kylies Beach is completely invisible to this high-tech surveillance network.
Completely off the grid.
Mm.
Which forces us to ask a really important question, right?
Why, if the tech exists and the state clearly cares about safety, why only monitor 37 beaches? Is it just money?
It's a mix. It's cost, for sure. Installing and maintaining these solar power buoys in rough, remote ocean is incredibly expensive. And there's a policy reality here, too. Governments tend to focus resources where the most people are. The highly populated, easily accessed beaches get the gear.
And remote national parks don't.
That calculus changes, yeah. They can't possibly monitor every single kilometer of coastline. It's just not feasible.
But the investigation did find something else, right? Something that shows how mobile these animals are.
They did, a very relevant piece of data that really highlights the problem with fixed infrastructure. You're talking about the tiger shark.
The 2.6-meter tiger shark, yeah.
So just one day before this tragedy, a large 2.6-meter tiger shark was tagged and released only 70 kilometers away at Burgess Beach.
70 kilometers, that's not far at all for a shark.
Not at all. Now, the DPI has been very clear. They have not confirmed this specific shark was responsible.
Of course.
But it's immediate proof that large, potentially dangerous apex predators were active and moving around in that broader coastal zone right before the incident.
So even if the system is great at the 37 monitored beaches, the shark itself isn't stuck inside that network?
Exactly. The shark's travel radius is way bigger than our surveillance network's reach.
And because of that, the investigation is now relying on old-school forensics, trying to match bite patterns.
Because the high-tech system failed. It didn't fail because it's bad technology. It failed because the victims were in a location outside its operational range. It's a powerful lesson in the limits of fixed technology when you're dealing with wild, highly mobile animals.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. What does all of this mean for you, the listener, who wants to be better informed? We've covered the tragedy, the heroism, the remoteness, the tech.
A lot of layers.
A lot of layers. But the key takeaways, I think, are pretty clear. First, just the profound life-saving power of immediate aid.
The tourniquet.
That makeshift tourniquet is a universal lesson in trauma care. It bought time when every single second mattered.
Absolutely.
Second, you have to recognize and respect the real risk profile of remote, unpatrolled beaches. Help is, by definition, delayed.
You're choosing that delay when you go there.
Yeah. And third, understanding that while our technology is amazing, it has very distinct limitations. It has boundaries. And you need to know if you're stepping outside of them. The local community, the local MP, Alison Penfold, they've all extended their condolences. And the official investigation, of course, continues. A report will be prepared for the coroner.
And, if we connect this whole deep dive back to the bigger picture, it leaves you as a really important question to think about.
Okay.
We know the technology, the buoys, the lifeguard patrols, they only work where they are. That's a given. But considering the victims here were visitors, transient visitors.
From Switzerland.
Yeah, people unfamiliar with the coast. It makes you wonder, how can official warnings be communicated differently? Not just a static sign or a note on a website.
How do you make the risk feel real?
Exactly. How do you make sure the risk profile of isolation is fully and compellingly understood before somebody even chooses to get in the water? It's a huge communication challenge, and it goes way beyond just putting up more signs. It demands a totally different approach to global visitor awareness.
Okay, one question for you. How did the beach remoteness influence both the tragedy and the subsequent emergency response efforts? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.